Hello and welcome to Computer Science 390 Independent Study Crestron AV System Programming. This is Jordan Hordijk and I will be showing you how to create the simple radio button. So for this tutorial we need to first create a file structure. I'm currently in my desktop and this is just Spotify here, but I have my Crestron project and I recommend using a file structure similar to this. This is where we will put all of the projects that we are currently done with. And then all these program defaults, these are program default, Simple Plus modules, user database, and user modules. Those are all for the simple compiler. So we're going to get started. We are going to create our radio button. Here I already have the project complete. So I'm going to quick create a new folder, radio tutorial. Perfect. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to bring it into the touch panel process. So each of these, this will be what we load onto the processor, and this is what we will load onto the touch panel. And for this tutorial, we currently do not have a touch panel, so we will be using a virtual touch panel. This makes it easier for people following along, makes it easier to record, and just makes it easier in general, especially testing purposes. So now that we have this file structure all figured out, we can minimize that. I have two of those open. So we are going to go open our simple windows. This is the easy one. This one does not do Simple Plus. However, this is all we need currently. Simple Plus we will get to later. This does take a little while to open up, but here we have our base window. We don't have a single program open, just the simple windows. We're going to go up here and say new simple program. So we're going to put in the system name. We're going to call this one radio tutorial. Probably saw that one coming a mile away. I apologize. So for the dealer name, we're going to leave that blank. This is mainly just for flavor text or ownership purposes. System number, again, this is more for determining where it is. Compiler version, that will get filled in automatically. Firmware version will also get filled in automatically. And then we actually don't even need to worry about these for the program ID tag. Also, you don't need to worry about it. However, I'm going to assign it to AV. Control processor, I have defaulted to RMC3. That is the processor that I am currently using and the processor that we are using for this independent study. For comment, I'm just going to put tutorial for Professor Norman and a little smiley face just for him. Hope you like it. So while it's creating all that, we get to look around and see all of the fun buttons. We have here the configure menu, and then here we have the program menu. So the configure menu is where we will go to, you guessed it, configure everything. So under the RMC, we have many different slots, and these slots are for different types of connections. So what we're going to do is go under the slot 2, and there's many different IDs. Sorry, these range from 03, because 01, 02, and 00 are all reserved for internal processes. This goes all the way down through hexadecimal to FE. FF is the broadcast ID, so that is not available as well. So we're just going to take up the first slot. We're going to double click on that, and we're going to select a new device to add. This is where we're going to add our touch panel, the TSW760. This is the touch panel that will be provided later on to use physical hardware. So we're just going to be developing on those for now. That way, whenever we want to load one of these earlier programs onto physical hardware, they will all work. So now that's actually done. So we're going to quick go over to this program view. This is where all the magic happens. So here we see all of our central control modules. We'll see the slot 1 and slot 2, and here in slot 2 you'll see the TSW760 that we just added. If we double click on that, it's going to pull up all of these sources, inputs, and then the feedbacks. So the inputs being button press 1, button press 2, and so on. And then all these feedbacks just to determine, hey, we pressed you, go ahead and show your source, or show that you've been pressed. So most times we'll say button 1, note that pressing the space bar automatically puts an underscore, makes it really nice. If we had a button on there, we would press button 1, it would feedback here, and then it would physically show that you have pressed the button. So we're going to call that for now. And we're going to move on to the logic, because there's nothing to do without logic. So we're going to open up the logic symbols. We're going to look at all these different items. We can go and look at any sort of logic symbol in these. So a debugging logic, memory logic, serial logic. There's all sorts of stuff we can do here. So let me just pull up my reference image of the program that I have already made. This is on my phone, so you won't be seeing this. I apologize. So for this, we're going to need an interlock logic. I'm going to go to the all symbols and scroll down to the I section. We need an interlock. I'm going to click and drag into this logic folder. We also need a serial IO. Scroll down to serial IO and grab that. And that's all we need from this left slide. So we can shrink that down. Don't need to worry about that. Next up, we're going to double click both of these. And we're going to double click on the touch panel. And to make things a little easier, I want to click on this tile vertical. So that way we can see the touch panel, serial IO, and the interlock all vertically next to each other. So you may have noticed that here over on the touch panel we have different sources. So we have a D, an A, and an S. D stands for digital, so these are digital presses. A is for analog, and S is for serial. This is for things like text. Analog is for things like percentages, and digital is for things like binary, so 0 or a 1. So over in the touch panel, we're going to need a few things. For a radio button, we need to have different sources. So we're going to have source. This will be the blank input. And then we will have a source desktop, a source laptop, and a source doc cam. So a document camera, the camera that kind of goes overhead, you can see the documents underneath it. For these, we are going to click on the top one, hold shift and click on the bottom one to select all 4. We're going to drag these over into the interlock, all the way over here. Now this is saying there's not enough space. We can expand to fit all the symbols. If there's a white arrowhead over here, that means it can be expanded. If it's a black arrowhead, it means there can only be one input. So we're going to click yes. So it's going to automatically input 3 new input areas. Excuse me, I apologize. That was gross. The outputs will all be out there as well. So for the outputs, we are going to say blank active, desktop active, laptop active, and doccam active. So this interlock is going to say, hey, whenever we get the source blank, we're going to set the blank active to the current output. And we're going to keep it there until another one is pressed, another input. So if I say press laptop, it would make the laptop active turn on and the blank active turn off. There's also these clears and the set all. If you have something set to clear, you can turn off all the inputs. If you have something set to the set all, you can turn them all on. Seeing as this is going to be a video source, we don't want either of these because we have a blank source active. We will never need to clear all the inputs. We'll just have a black screen sent whenever we don't want anything. So next up, look at my reference image. We are going to pull from the interlock the blank active, and we are going to send that over to the serial I/O. Now the serial I/O is going to get this. We're going to add enough inputs here as well. It'll have little text boxes. So we can add text in here. So we can say, oops, blank. We can say desktop, laptop, and document camera. We are not going to put anything in string 5 because I believe that is the default output when nothing is selected. So we're always going to have either something selected or the initialized nothing. Makes it sound like we need that. We really don't. We're just going to have it auto set to default, or the auto set to the blank as default. So now, with this serial I/O, you'll notice that this is a black line. This is a black line instead of a blue line. This black corresponds to the digital. So over here on this digital, we'll see that that's where our text is going to go. So we shall put over here the active source. So the active source will be the text box of whatever is selected. And if blank is active, it'll say blank. If laptop is active, it'll say laptop. So we're going to set that to the digital input. This really says output, but the input is when we say type something into the into the touch panel, and then we submit it. That would be inputting. The output is something to view. So we're going to be outputting it to the user. We're going to come back to the digital inputs, and we shall take a look at the reference image and notice that the blank active through the .cam active feed back into these buttons. So whenever the blank is active, it will say, hey, press this button and keep it down to show that this is the one that's selected. So aside from all of that, that is the logic behind everything all said and done. So we're going to save as. We're going to go into our radio tutorial format that we made earlier. And we're going to name this radio tutorial. Just going to save that just like that. So now it's been saved. Next thing, we need to compile and send it over to the processor. So we're going to click this convert and compile button, or you can press F12. It will do the same thing. Click yes. And now we're going to send it to wherever we will. We could click TCP and enter the IP address, but seeing as we're connected via USB, I'm going to click that. Makes it much easier on my part. So now it's going to say, hey, I want to send it to the device. Where are we going to send it? The removable media or internal flash? We'll want to send it to internal flash seeing as we don't have a USB plugged in. Now it'll show the current program, my current radio button, the one I made earlier. And then it will also ask for the current program. And as long as it's the program that we want to send, the radio tutorial, we say everything's fine. we're going to send it to the processor. So I'm going to click send. Now it has to stop the current program. Then it will have to send the new one. This could take up to 5 minutes, but seeing as this is a small project, it should send pretty quickly. It won't take the full 5 minutes, I promise. See, already done. We're going to close it, seeing as the new process has already been sent. So now the processor has been programmed. Now we just need a way to control it. We no longer need these simple windows. However, we will want to notice the source on the touch panel, the press 1, 2, 3, and 4 labels, and also digital source output of 1. So as long as we remember this order, we'll be fine. So I'm going to close this out, seeing as I have a reference picture. And now I'm going to open Visual Tools Pro E. I'm also going to launch this as an administrator because sometimes it throws a hissy fit. I'm going to full screen this. Now notice no program is loaded. We're going to start a new program here at this green button. And I'm going to set the directory for it to be radio tutorial under touch panel projects. I'm going to set the file name to be radio tutorial TSW760, seeing as that is the model touch panel that we will be using. And also, over here, we'll see the panel type. You can set it to any panel type that you want. I'm going to keep ours at 760, again, because that's what we'll be using later on. To create. Now it'll let us pick a theme. I'm just going to stick with this nice ctneo.xml. It looks nice, and we can always choose different ones onto other projects. So we're going to hit start. And here we are. This is the project. Up here, we'll see a button. This button is the create a new page button. So I want to click that, so that way it will actually have a page to work with. I'm going to call this index, seeing as it is the first one that we will be seeing when the program loads. So here we have the Smart Graphics window. This is the grid, the size of the touchscreen that we'll be working with. So we know that this is the space we have to work with. So if we remember correctly, we have 4 sources that we're going to need to implement. So we're going to need 4 buttons. I'm just going to go over here to the buttons folder in the control browser. I'm going to just click and drag 4 buttons in here. Doesn't matter where you place them. You can put them somewhere fun. You can put them in any orientation you want. That's up to you. I'm just going to quick toss them into a nice organized configuration for the time being. Okay, so now we have our 4 buttons on the left here. So I'm also going to take some simple label. I'm going to make this fairly large. And I'm going to come over, double click on this, which will automatically select the label text over here. And I'm going to call this radio button program tutorial. That T capitalized and this B capitalized as well. That text is pretty small though. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to the font size over here and change it to, let's say, 46. That's actually pretty decently sized for a first guess. If we wanted to change the text color, we would put this here. If we want to add a text shadow, which I do, I'm going to click that button. And now I'm going to simply select color to be background shadow that is not black. Because if I remember correctly, it defaults to black or blue. Either way, I think this gray looks better. So now we need an output text box because we have that text saying what source will be where. So I'm going to create another simple label here. Make it roughly large. Change the font size to about 36. That's good. Text shadow. Add a text shadow as well. Give ourselves a nice color for a shadow there. And we're going to change the label to be blank. So currently we will have no video source out at the very beginning. If we wanted to, we could look into another way to get it to default to the blank source. But for now, we're going to leave it at this. Next up, we want to come over here and make sure that this is connected to the system. So over in the Simpl, we made sure that the text was in the text out 1. So for this indirect text serial join, we're going to change this 0 to a 1. If we had another text box in the 2 slot, we would change that to be a 2, and so forth. All the text that gets sent to that 1 slot will get sent to this text box because that is the corresponding port. Next up, we're going to do the buttons. And for the inputs, if I'm remembering correctly, we had blank source here. So I'm going to type in blank source. On the next one, we had desktop. The third one, laptop. And the final one was document camera. So how are these buttons going to connect? Very similarly to the touch panel. I'm going to go over to this press digital join. We can click the auto button, but that's very sometimes it doesn't work right. See here, it auto defaulted to 6. We want to change that manually and set it to 1. Press enter. Set the desktop to 2. Laptop, we will set to 3. Document camera, we will set to 4. Simple as that. Now, it should all be working. I'm just going to do a little bit of reorganizing myself. I think that looks a little bit nicer. So, I'm going to press Control S to save the project, much like all the other code. And over here we have a upload project. We don't necessarily need to upload it. We only need to compile the project, which again is F12, or you can go to the file, compile. Now it wants us to send it. We actually don't want to send this project to the processor because it won't be running on the processor. It'll be running on the touch panel. So we simply won't send it there. We're going to hit cancel, but the project has already been compiled. So now we can simply minimize out of this. We can go into our file structure, go into the touch panel projects radio button tutorial, and here you'll see a radio tutorial tsw760.vtz. This is the file you want to run. This file will open up the virtual touch panel. Now you'll notice nothing's actually working. It just simply works as buttons. That's because we haven't connected it to anything yet. This is where Toolbox comes in. Remember that IP address I told you to get? This is when we need it. I currently forgot mine, so I need to open up touch panel system info, or at least the processor system info, and we need to wait for it to connect. To USB. Wait for it to retrieve the data. Now we can pull this up. So I'm going to hit Options, Host Settings, go into this host name IP address. Now I'm going to type in the IP address for mine. Mine is 153.106.219.215. The IP ID, we didn't change that. That's set to 3. The port should automatically default to this, which that is the correct port that we need. and we will try to hit connect. It might take a second to connect. And sometimes I've known this to be a little bit buggy. So we're going to get around that bug. We're going to click this use SSL, and then we're going to unclick it, and then hit connect. So now you'll notice that that connection error is now gone. We can click blank source, and it'll say blank. Click desktop, it'll say desktop. Laptop, it'll say laptop. And document camera, it'll say document. Now notice that none of these three are showing what this laptop one is showing. It's currently showing, hey, this is selected. Now that is something I overlooked, and I apologize for that. So we are going to close this out, close out Toolbox, as long as you can remember that IP. We're going to minimize this, go back into Vision Tools. Now this blank source, or each of these buttons, we're going to click this show control feedback. This is what we would like selected for all of these. Now notice when I click on laptop, that one's already checked because that's what needs to be checked to show the toggle state. So now we'll hit Control S again. We'll hit F12. It is now compiled. Close that out because we're not sending it anywhere. Minimize the project. Go back into the file structure. Load the .ftz file. Options, host settings. Enter your IP address. Click Use SSL. Uncheck. Hit Connect. And now it remembered laptop from the last input we selected because the processor never got reset, only the touch panel. So it remembers that laptop was the last one selected. Click desktop, and now it shows that has been selected. Blank source, document camera, they all work the same way. So that is how you implement a radio button. Thank you very much for tuning in. And next time, we will be covering something else that I do not recall off the top of my head. See you then.